Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another Tuesday 8 o'clock session of the Raul Reyes Show, where we just talk politics. That's it, and we have a little bit of fun with it. Of course, there's a total seriousness about a lot of the things that are going on, so we try to sort of banter it back and forth just to kind of keep it light. But did you all see Donald Trump was down in Edinburgh? Edinburgh, Texas. Got a good friend who's from Edinburgh, Texas. Actually, a couple of folks from El Valle, ahí por El Valle de Texas. And anyway, he was hanging out with Greg Abbott and a few other folks out there. They were feeding, I think, a little bit of everybody, DPS and some Border Patrol. The Guard was out there. And again, it's all the whole Operation Lone Star piece out there. So a lot of good stuff happening out there. And of course, Greg Abbott endorses at that point Donald Trump. And so a little weird because I knew that it was Trump was going to go down there, but I didn't know that was going to transpire. And a lot of reasons is, I'm a critic of Abbott and the way he's handled the border. And but again, nonetheless, a good gesture, goodwill for all those folks to be down there, feeding DPS. So it's all goodness there for sure. The politics of it is a little bit off, if I may say so, just because. So the day after, Greg Abbott then proceeds to endorse a whole lot of legislative reps, many of whom, no kidding, voted to impeach Ken Paxton. So now there's some news on the front on that. If you're from Medina County and up into Junction, Texas, Brady, which is McCullough, and what you'll know is that Andrew Murr has decided he's not going to run for re-election. Now, just for everybody here, we're going to talk a little bit about everything tonight, but these are just sort of the things that have popped up since I was preparing for today. And but newsworthy, if you can say that, and of course, sort of the hair in the back of your head popping up as to what's really going on. So Andrew Murr is not seeking re-election. If you look at my Facebook page, I say, good, Murstache is gone, time to be out of there. And if you know what's happening in that district, Wesley Verdell, good friend, he ran against Andrew Murr 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and of course did not win because Murr was still kind of a strong incumbent. He's been there. This will be 10 years, I think, since he's been there. But he is the number 2 ringleader who went after Ken Paxton on the impeachment. And so I think he finally read the writing on the wall. And so he's not seeking re-election. So for about 18 hours, we're all doing the high five. West Verdell, it's got this, except I think everybody knew, if you're in politics, that the swamp isn't just going to allow for a seat to stay open. So sure enough, within 18 hours or so, sometime today, rancher out of Llano, Texas, has announced that he's going to go and try to take the seat for Andrew Murr. Just so you know, he's part of the Water Board Commission. So, and he's got ties back to Greg Abbott. So that'll tell you a whole lot of stuff that's happening. Again, Trump and Abbott down in Edinburgh, feeding people, good stuff. I mean, law enforcement, all good. Next day, Abbott endorses, I don't know, something like 24, 25 legislative folks that are out there. Andrew Murr was not part of the list, probably because he already knew that he was not going to be running for re-election. Dade Phelan is not part of the group either. But you got Troxclair and a lot of these other folks that voted to impeach Ken Paxton. So, and then you've got Ken Paxton on the other side endorsing folks like Wesley Verdell. So it's lining up to be this Abbott Paxton, thing going on here. So just, if you're looking at the legislative body of Texas, the elections that are coming up, you are now starting to see the lines are drawn. There's an Abbott crowd, and then there's this Ken Paxton crowd. And if you're a conservative and you're rooting for Ken Paxton, which we're going to have a conversation about here in a little bit too, then you're rooting for the good guys. I think Abbott is just done a horrible job on the border. We're spending endless amounts of money on Operation Lone Star. This is not a hit on all the individuals down there, law enforcement, that they're doing their job. Border Patrol's doing their job. But I think the governor has failed to apply the United States Constitution, the sovereign state of Texas portion that says we can defend ourselves. And you've heard me say that over and over again and again. But it's politics at the strategic level. So I can see where Donald Trump is, doing the handshake, and so not blaming anybody here. What I'm just is providing facts that and or it looks like Abbott's lining himself for a position, which I think he wants, because he's realized right now nobody can beat Trump in the primaries. He's ahead, I don't know, 20 points, maybe more. Ron DeSantis is a near second, well, a far away second. And so things are starting to shape up. Now, that said, most of America right now is worried about what kind of dressing they're going to have with their turkey here in a couple of days. And there's nothing wrong with that. And whether the Cowboys are going to get their butts kicked again, and how soon we can fire the coach and the quarterback. So, and I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm throwing down against my own team. They haven't been any good since the '90s. So put me down as I'm a Cowboys fan, but we got to call it like it is, just like we do in politics. So all that said, a lot of folks are just gearing up for the holidays. So a lot of this stuff isn't on their radar. And I've said that. I have said that about politics for this whole year. And because inflation's high, the economy's, it's not good. Just anytime you got to pay high interest rates to buy a house, things are going to slow down. That's all there is to it. And so, all that said, I say that because, everybody knows we've been contemplating a potential run in Congressional District 23. No decision has been made. By the way, I sent out an email, and I'm going to confirm with Linda Ruski here if she'll text me if the email went out. But it went out a few days ago. We have literally a 99% Raul, you got to run again survey going right now. One guy in San Antonio, but and I know him, but he always picks wrong. I think he leaned in with Tony Gonzalez, and him and Hod during the runoff, and of course, and now he's supporting some other candidate. All is fair in politics, of course, but what I would tell you is, out of the 400 emails that we first sent, and there was another 2,000 that went out, we got 100%, well, 99.9, thanks to that one guy, where you're telling me you got to run. Again, no decision's been made. We're just looking at it to make sure, see where we're at. This is all part of it. And the reason I'm saying that and why we've waited this long to make a decision is, and I'm getting a little sidetracked here because I really want to talk about the current events here. But just to finish this part off, is because the point is everybody's looking at football, turkey, thanking the good Lord, as we should, for everything, for this great and awesome country of ours. This nation is wonderful still living here. Doesn't matter what the left is doing right now. This is still American. Do whatever you want. And I've said all along, nobody's going to pay attention to any of the elections until about 3 or 4 January. After we come off the holidays, everybody goes back to work. They shake off the holiday dust, and then they realize, oh crap, we've got a election where we can change some stuff, and then it's going to be game on. And at that time, you're going to see who's in the congressional runs. You're going to see who's in the Senate runs. Got a very heated race between Allred and Roland Gutierrez in the Democrat Senate race to challenge Ted Cruz in November. So that is a major factor of how the down ballots are going to play out, because I've said all along, guys like, and we're going to throw this guy around today and probably all the way through March, because if you want to know who Tony Gonzalez is, you just got to kind of hang out here and get the current events. What's going to happen is a lot of Democrats are not going to be able to afford to come over to the Republican side like they always do to pull over their rhinos, you see, because there is a really heated primary debate between Colin Allred and Roland Gutierrez, who one is a congressman, the other one is a senator at the Texas Senate level. So things are going to get really good, but nobody's paying attention really, I think, until sometime in January. It'll all kick up into high gear. You'll start to see all the mailers go out, and all the mudslinging and all the lying and everything that's going on. And voila, we're into a good old fashioned 2.5 months And so if we're there, just look for us. But if we're not, it's because we decided not to do it. That said, um, let's get into a couple of things. I do want to talk about who else was at the border, and I'm going to use a couple of pictures here. But the border patrol union boss was there. His name is Brandon Judd. Brandon's been around for a while here lately, and the reason I'm going to pick on Brandon Judd, the border patrol union boss, is because this guy's pro amnesty. You see, now, now he has to be there because he's the BP union chief. Okay, but I'm going to show you here today some things that tie back to all the things that are happening here on the border, and so we'll start with this piece here real quick. Uh, Let me put this up, and I'm going to disappear into the background here. So here's the border patrol union president, and his name is Brandon Judd, and he's key in all this because and this is written by Pedro L. Gonzalez back in December of 2022, and I'm using this because at that time Pedro did the research, and this writer did the research, and he realized Brandon really is pro amnesty. And so, just a couple of notes here. Uh, Brandon Judd, the Border Patrol Union president, has been pushing amnesty for a long time. And of course, they're citing sources and leaked emails, but, and if you know anything about the other articles, other magazines out there, Axios is reported that Judd was behind the firing of a guy named Mark Morgan. He was if you don't remember, he was the head of the Border Patrol back in the day. And so this guy wants him gone, you see. And the reason we're starting off with that piece right here, let me get myself back in here. The reason we're starting off with this part right here is because you're starting to see the pro amnesty group come back into play. And so now let me tie Brandon into a few things that happened in this district here. And I'm going to show you, let me see if I got the right one here. This is Ryan James Gordeski. This is again back in December of 22. If you can look at this here, what he's reporting here, what he was citing was that Senator Sinema was telling colleagues that she had bought off the BP union. Well, guess who that is right there? Brandon Judd of the Border Patrol Union. And what was happening was they were trading off, as you can see here, they were trading off better pay and or more benefits, something like that, for amnesty. And just so we're in the know here, Brandon Judd, in my opinion, is a globalist, pro amnesty guy that just managed to get himself into the president position of the Border Patrol. Now, how many Border Patrol agents that provide their dues to this organization know that? Hey, send them here so they can see it. But the bottom line is, what we have ourselves is Trump going down to Edinburgh. And again, he's doing the goodwill thing, like as if he went to Afghanistan to serve turkey and dinner to, our wonderful military who at that time were, fighting the bad guys. But now he's down in Edinburgh and he's with Governor Greg Abbott feeding DPS. Great. Nothing wrong with that. But then you start to see these guys circling around because they know one thing already. And it looks like former President Trump is going to be the nominee and then onward to be the president, because all the polls are showing that he's leading Joe Biden by like 5 to 7 points. Now, that just happened recently, right? I mean, which is nuts to me because we've gone through inflation. There's probably a recession, but nobody, the government isn't calling it that because heaven forbid they call it the media help to tell the truth and let us know that we've been in some kind of recession, near a depression here with all the things that happened in the last 2 years, especially since President Biden has taken over. And so what you have is, it looks like there are a lot of young voters, and there's a poll out there that says that Biden is literally upside down with young people to the tune of 40 points. So, and even with Democrats, he's upside down like by 12 points. Some of the people that voted for him because they hate mean tweets, something like that. Now, where am I going with this? The point being is that people are now starting to circle around President Trump because they know he's going to be the nominee. And looks like right now he's on track to be the president. Well, great. We all want to go back to the 4 years of no wars, no skirmishes, great economy, and the border was secure. But then you've got this guy, right? He's still the Border Patrol Union president, but he's pro amnesty. And then you've got proof that a while back he was trading off amnesty for any benefits that he could get or whatever the case may be. But it was Border Patrol Union are going to sell out the country for pay increases. Look at that last line there. Now, why am I presenting it to you like this? Because let me get this green guy off of here real quick. Uh, Part of what I'm trying to show here is that part of the problem during Trump's first presidency, aside that he did a lot of wonderful things, is he circled, well, a lot of people wrapped themselves around him. And at one point, if you remember, the president then, Trump, was thinking, okay, let's look at this DACA thing. And guess who was in the middle of that? Senator Sinema and, of course, Brandon Judd. Now, let me tie that back here to Congressional District 23, because if you know the candidates that are out there, they need to look at this right here and realize, okay, we're doing a little research on how is it that a guy like Tony Gonzalez, one, would not impeach a guy like Mayorkas, and then he turns around last week and they're pushing the impeach Director Mayorkas because remember, he's the DHS chief, right? Director. But he wasn't for impeaching anybody to begin with. Well, guess what? Some side notes here real quick. Brandon Judd was actually responsible for recommending, guess who? Mayorkas to be the DHS director. And that's in Pedro's research. In fact, let me read that just carefully here. But this guy, Brandon Judd, and let me put the green face back up here while we talk, literally has been involved with a lot of the things that are on the border and actually pushing amnesty during the Trump years. And now he's back here again with Trump and Abbott. And here's another side note. Was Judd, and I'm reading off the article here, just bear with me. Was Judd just waiting for the right moment to out himself as a hardliner, perhaps? Or maybe he just knows which way the wind blows. So this guy's a left and right kind of guy, depending on what he needs to do to get things done. And turns out like vain. Anyway, consider that he endorsed Alejandro Mayorkas, Biden's Homeland Security head of, after Mayorkas told senators that the Biden administration wants to, and this is quote unquote, to grant citizenship rights to most illegals. So what am I reading here? This is from the research that Pedro Gonzalez did. Brandon Judd was willing to go with not just amnesty, but even after knowing that Biden wants to give as many illegals citizenship, guess what? He was willing to advocate for Mayorkas to be the DHS director. All right, so now you've got that guy there, and we've tied him into with Senator Sinema. Now, if you don't know who Senator Sinema is, she's from Arizona. So her, and let me put this out here. Let me see if I got this one here. Is that one it? So this is back in 21. You got these four folks: Cornyn, our John Cornyn, Senator John Cornyn, buddy at the Republican convention. Senator Sinema from Arizona. Here's Henry Cuellar. He's down there in the lower district, who almost got his butt kicked by another hard left Democrat, but survived by the skinny chin of his chin. I think that's how you say it. And then guess who? Tony Gonzalez. And what did they do? They introduced this Bipartisan Border Solution Act to address migrant influx. Now, why am I tying Brandon Judd to Sinema to those other three folks to include the fourth guy, Tony Gonzalez? Because this has all been set up for pro-amnesty. And if you've ever seen me, I actually put pictures up, as well as some of the other folks that have been talking about running for Congressional District 23, that Mr. Gonzalez has been hanging out with a group called the Libre Initiative. And guess what? They're pro amnesty. So we're back to the border. Trump goes down. There's Abbott. Uh, it sort of draws the line between Abbott and Ken Paxton. That's one piece of this, and then you've got the floaters, like a guy like Brandon Judd, the Patrol Union president. And by the way, we love Border Patrol. We're just outing this guy, sort of like you would Mayorkas. I'm 100% sure most of Border Patrol absolutely are disgusted with their DHS director Mayorkas, because he's the guy who sets policy to allow all these illegal aliens to come in, even though the law at the congressional level says you're not supposed to do that. By the way, we have to fix that. So all that said, you now have a little history between Cuellar, John Cornyn, Senator Sinema, who all literally is telling people that Brandon Judd was willing to forego anything, citizenship for illegals, even after he knew Biden was for that. But here he is, the BP union president. So I don't know how he got there. All I know that he's there, and now he's down in South Texas with Abbott and Trump. Now, I'm not pimping out Trump or Abbott. What I'm saying is these are all the strappers. They're all starting to show up and circle around. This is what lobbyists and PACs and all these, they sort of know. I guess they look at the Vegas numbers and say, okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat the Cowboys or whatever the case may be, and they throw their bets and they lean one way. It's the same thing is happening right here with the presidential run, and that is Trump is ahead in the polls. Looks like he's going to be the nominee. Looks like he's going to be the president again. So you have guys like Brandon Judd circling the wagons. Now, he should be there, I guess, because he's the Border Patrol Union president, but he's pro amnesty. Now, I could have done that with like 4 or 5 other people I also saw down there running around trying to get attention for President Trump and Greg Abbott. But really, I'm just targeting Brandon Judd, because guess what? For a long time, this cat's been all about pro-amnesty. Senator Sinema in Arizona knew it, so they created a bill. By the way, this bill that they're talking about here, let me bring this up real quick here. This bipartisan solution, Border Solutions Act. Let me tell you what was in this, okay? All it was they were going to hire more judges, and sure enough, they were going to hire more Border Patrol. In other words, they were going to bring a lot more people into the process by which we get illegals in. There was no deport, no detain, no hold, no send them back, nothing like that. This bill was simply to ease the transition of illegals coming in. And if you look currently, one of the bills that Mr. Gonzalez is throwing out there is called the Hires Act. It's not to hire citizens like you and me. It's to hire illegals that have already come here. And part of why I'm bashing him a little bit today here, because I'm trying to tie in what you're seeing on the border now and what's going to happen in the future. Because already, look, today I got 2 mailers, one for my wife and one for me. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, right? And why? And that's sarcasm, because he's going to pull that on a video somewhere. But and it literally says, I voted to impeach. I led the impeachment of Mayorkas. Well, the truth is, and I want you to, for all of you who got the mailer, this is your guy right here. This is our representative. Literally a month or 2 ago, was the only one who wasn't on board for impeaching Mayorkas. And let me tell you why. Because this guy right here endorsed him. You see? In fact, he advocated for Director Mayorkas for DHS, because they're all about this moving people across, even though they're working for the government. They're working for us. So he gets a little cross-sided with old green face here, Brandon Judd. You see, but then he realizes, because here's what's happening, right? He's been censured, and now he's probably polled, and he's seeing the same poll I've seen. I'm going to tell you, he's really low in the numbers. We're talking about Tony Gonzalez, and if he's watching, he's done with. So he has to go lean right, and guess what he does? He's going to go hang out with the toughest, red-blooded. I'm just going to shred you apart, hardcore conservative. Marjorie Taylor Greene. and that's his solution. But she can't save him. Nobody can. We've got a lot of great candidates in this race, and so what I wanted to at least address for all of you: why did Abbott go down there? Why did Abbott hang out with Trump? It probably, it's a legitimate, we're going to feed the troops kind of thing. That's awesome. I applaud Abbott and President Trump for doing that. But when you see Brandon Judd and some of the other people that are lingering around, because it's going to start to happen, and I did say nobody's really paying attention right now, but we are, because it's going to matter in January and February as uh, politicians like Mr. Gonzalez are going to try to recolor themselves as red-blooded conservatives just to get through the primaries, you see? And then they'll turn around and do an about face when it comes to November, because really, he's hanging out. This is, by the way, the Border Patrol folk, the union endorsed Tony Gonzalez. And now you understand, because they want a pro-amnesty congressman out there. And so did Sinema here, right? She wanted to get this deal because together with Cornyn and Cuellar, they were going to pass this bill here. They're all about open borders, globalism. Now, here's what I think they've realized: they don't need any more people. You see New York, you see Illinois, you see or Chicago, you see all these different places. Democrats are complaining against their leadership now. So things are starting to turn around, but old Biden's not going to quit, you see, because guess what? In my opinion, now this is the opinion piece, because I've provided facts here. I think Obama literally wants to transform this country before 2024. Uh, I think there's surely a way for all these folks that have been here, entered here illegally, to vote. They'll find a way. You just got to go to El Paso. They want to provide IDs for illegal aliens. Now, a lot of people say, well, we need them to be able to drive and this and that. They need to not be in the country, period. You see? Because if I go to Mexico and I overstay my visa, they'll put me in jail. But somehow we don't do that here in the United States because, well, just because we no longer follow the laws and the rules. And so, okay, let's kind of break it down one more time. Trump with Abbott at the border, good stuff. But you need to start paying attention of the people that are surrounding themselves around the horse that's going to win. Because see, if you remember a couple of months ago, old President Trump was like, where's Abbott? You see, he was complaining that Abbott wasn't doing enough on certain things, you see. And all of a sudden, 2 months later, they're serving meals down there. So they made some kind of, handshake deal or whatever. But 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 just beware of all the PACs and the lobbyists that are now going to just sort of strap themselves around the horse that is allegedly going to win. And I think he is. I mean, listen, folks, he's ahead in the primaries, and then of course he's going into November pretty solid with Biden. I don't think even somebody needs to do something. The man looks sick. The man doesn't look like he knows where he's at. It's not a good place for our president to be. And I say that as a human being who absolutely am disgusted with the policies that Joe Biden has put forth. I think they've ruined a lot of things. They put a lot of people are in danger because it's car chase after car chase, illegal aliens raping and murdering people across the United States and across the different parts of where they've come from. But all that said, I am empathetic, maybe sympathetic, I think, to whatever ails our president, because he's literally being used to do things that I don't think he understands anymore. So all that said, that's sort of a little wrap up of Brandon Judd, the Border Patrol Union endorsed not just Tony Gonzalez, a slew of other candidates. But guess what? Because he's pro-amnesty, and we prove it because Senator Sinema here, and I'm going to put this up one last time, outs him as, yeah, he's willing for anything for pay increases. And of course, that Sinema is the same Sinema you see here with the other three politicians. These are two senators and two congressmen, two Democrats and two Republicans. By the way, John Cornyn and Gonzalez are Republicans. They're the worst ones you can possibly think of, because they're not thinking about the country. They're thinking about pro-amnesty and the way forward. somehow, somewhere they got bought off. I don't know what the case may be, but that is where we are with that. So hit me with some comments on the bottom if you want to see more information on those folks, and we'll provide it next week as well. If we're Yeah, next week is Tuesday. I think the holidays will be over by that time. So let's just talk a little bit. So I'm going to switch it over. Hard transition. This is what I would do if I was out teaching. I used to teach algebra, by the way, and math, and part time just to make some extra money with the colleges. But let's go talk Ukraine just for a quick second here. That war is lost. Have you heard about that? Probably not, because all focus is over still with Israel and the Palestinian people, right? And accusing Israel of, oh, you're overdoing it, and yet they're the only ones trying to help Palestinians to get out of harm's way. Because if you've seen any of the videos, Hamas is actually stopping Palestinians from leaving the area, and they put them in harm's way, and probably purposefully, because they make for videos that showcase in some form or fashion that Israel is not, um, playing by the rules, and yet they're the only ones reaching or literally bending backwards to try to make sure these folks are not in harm's way. Now, why do I want to talk about Ukraine just for a split second? One, the war is lost, but I want to give you just a couple of things to think about here as we talk about Ukraine, Russia, the UN, NATO, and of course, what the play was in as far as the US. And notice how the media's been pretty silent. And if you didn't know it, there's been something like two, three, the numbers are as high as 500,000 Ukrainians dead. And of course, a lot of their young generation has been maimed, certainly traumatized. And but you're not seeing or hearing any of that. How we got there is a longer version for another time, but I wanted to just address a couple of things. Did you know? So this is where we're going to start this. Did you know that just 1 month after the start of the Russian military intervention in Ukraine, Ukrainian and Russian negotiators had come very close, really close to an agreement of a ceasefire and to an outline of a comprehensive peace solution to the conflict. So this is within months when Ukraine and Russia get into it. Literally, there's potential talk of a peace deal. Bullet number two: President Zelensky and his government had made great efforts to negotiate peace with Russia and bring the war to a quick end. Now, I am not a fan of Zelensky, but this is probably the fourth or fifth article that I read where I think he realized he didn't want to see the Ukrainian people just get slaughtered. And he's actually making an effort early on. But see, he's a puppet of the Soros, uh, you know, claws and just these big money people. So he had to tote the line. Now let me read bullet number three. Contrary to Western interpretation, Ukraine and Russia agreed at the time that the planned NATO expansion was the reason for the war. Let me give you the 2-minute version of that. Since 2008, back in the Bush years, the U.S. through the UN has been pushing our NATO expansion into the eastern portion of that area, which meant eventually they were going to tap up against the Russian front line. When they get to Ukraine, this is about 2012, 2013, and you remember that rainbow, what's it called, revolution, and it was more like of a media blitz, and all the mogul media was involved, and they toppled the one president who was looking for peace and replaced him with Zelensky. You see, so um, all of it was because they wanted NATO expansion all the way into Ukraine. We've said this before on this show and other places we've been podcasting. It's as if you would have said, let's let Russia put the Warsaw Pact in Canada. The United States would never, ever have settled for that. So we encroached in on the Russian bear. And somebody will say, well, he was being imperialistic. He took over Crimea, blah, blah, blah. And what I'll say is this, is he already had seen, and I'm not defending Putin. What I'm telling you is the facts, as many people are now starting to see it, and you hear it in this research. By the way, this is Kanoka the Great. It's on Twitter. Great research from this person here. I'll put it on the comments because I like to make sure All our sources are right there, but I'll read that again. Contrary to Western interpretations, Ukraine and Russia agreed at the time that the planned NATO expansion was the reason for the war. So Zelensky knew it, the U.S. knew it, the UN knew it, Russia was telling them. And if you look at all the policy experts, left and right, and John Mearsheimer, I've quoted him before, has hours and hours of video because he's a Russian expert. I think he's out of Stanford University, saying we push NATO to into his backyard, and Putin wasn't going to allow it. We would not allow the Warsaw Pact in Canada or in Mexico. Hell, we had a hard time when the Russians moved into Cuba. And now the Chinese are all over the place, so that's a whole different topic altogether. But you understand, Russia was not going to allow itself to be threatened by NATO, because that's what it saw. And if you look at, and if you ever read any history on Russia, what you're going to realize is they've been invaded over and over and over again. So this is a country that wants to be left alone. Yeah, I know the USSR, that's a whole different story altogether. But bottom line is, NATO expansion into Ukraine drove that war, and everybody knew it. All right, let me wrap this part up here. The bottom line is, peace was being sought after months after the war started. And guess what happened? The Biden administration would not have it. That's all. This is all reported. This is all solid sources. I've researched it multiple times. Um, and it says Biden, he is the reason Ukraine is destroyed and hundreds of thousands of young men and women in Ukraine are now dead. President Biden turned down a peace deal at the start of the war because NATO and the Western military industrial complex that Joe Biden has served for 50 years as a career in Washington were willing to sacrifice the use of Ukraine in the pursuit of regime change in Russia. See, they thought they could topple Putin. And it turns out Putin's a lot stronger than Ukraine. Now, when you fight a proxy war, you can't bring the full brunt of the United States military armament to that, because then you start World War III. And so they had to do a proxy by proxy war. Well, it turns out the Ukrainians, one, they didn't want to fight. And you've seen videos where they're dragging people to the war, and because they're obliged to go fight. A total mess out there, and we did not help it. So here we have hundreds of thousands of people are dead, and a lot of it has to do with because the UN, NATO, and of course led by the US and a few other cats on the backside, probably Obama and a lot of the leftists who wanted Ukraine for all its resources, but probably to move into, I don't know about Russia, but the point being is we encroach too much, and all of a sudden we have a war. And now it's coming to an end. Nobody's talking about it, but all destruction has happened in Ukraine. Let me tell you what's happening there. And I know I've gone 10 minutes here, but we could have had a peace deal where I think Putin would have said, okay, well, let's call it truth. You keep that part. I'm going to keep this piece, and we're done. Instead, Russia is now going to keep a large part of Ukraine, and there's not a whole lot we can do. Because if we go any further, and you see what's happening in Israel and Palestine, and the Middle East is being destabilized under the Biden administration, we're looking at World War III there. So we really can't afford to be in Ukraine anymore. And if you look at all the resources and you do any little bit of research, you can only make bullets and missiles and guns at a certain rate. And we're not in a war production rate. So I'm not telling you we're running out. What I'm saying is, didn't mean to hit that. What I'm saying is, at some point, you can't fight four fronts. We just can't. And the Biden administration has been criticized for thinking that it could take on anybody anywhere. And the answer is, I'm a retired Air Force guy, not per se Army, but we all go. I went through Air War College. We went through Command Staff College. So all these things are there to teach a guy like me that two fronts is the max. You see, and now you could go three, but it takes a whole lot of drafts and a whole lot of recruitment of people that we really don't want to get into right now. So that's Ukraine. Again, for anybody who's catching up, we've had a conversation about the border, Trump being down there, and of course, some of the stuff that's happening in Ukraine. Let me do another hard transition here, and let's talk about what's happening in just the media here. And let me see if I can, but first, let me finish off the border with this. Have y'all seen this? This is actually a pretty good piece here. Chip Roy and the Texas delegation had put together a border bill, and that's it on the left side. That's the House Bill 2, and you'll see asylum abuse, safe third country policy, child trafficking, and the NGOs are in here. If you look at all of these, and I'll put this picture in the comments section as well, so you guys can look at it. But just look at the NGO portion. Cuts off funding for NGOs currently helping the Biden administration to incentivize and facilitate illegal crossings. So the House, now the Senate proposal, they don't do anything about that. You see, nothing is down about that. But let me key in on the NGO portion, and I'm going to read this one more time. Cuts off funding for NGOs. That's key here. Now, why is that important? The House bill, amongst a list of things like asylum and all those other things, it tightens all those things up, but it goes after the NGOs. You see, the Senate bill doesn't, because there's a Senate version for a border bill. And you'll hear Chip Roy, if you're on Twitter, telling the world, forget the Senate bill, go with ours. Well, the Senate is run by Democrats. And on top of that, a lot of our Republicans, like Mitt Romney, he's a Democrat too. So, but here's the point I want to make about this one comparison, so you know. And I'm going to put it up here. NGOs cuts off the funding. Guess who was the only Republican in Texas who was against this? Yep, Tony Gonzalez. And so now you understand, right? Because up until now, nobody's really put together just a small sample that tells you this is what the House wants and this is what the Senate wants. The Senate's already sold its soul, so we don't have a lot of hope there. Ted Cruz is a wonderful Republican. He's the only one up there fighting by, or even John Cornyn is in favor of letting the NGOs do whatever they want. Remember, we just showed him, Sinema, Cuellar, and Gonzalez on a bill in 2021 where they don't want to detain, and deport and remove. They want to facilitate. Okay. And so what's happening now is you've got this bill by Chip Roy and the Texas delegation going through the House. It goes to the Senate, but they create their own bill. And they take out a lot of things, but one key part of that is the NGOs and taking their money. Because if you haven't figured it out, and by the way, there's a lot of people out there. If you look at Frank Lopez, you look at Ben Bergquam, you look at Anthony Agüero. There's another gentleman here in San Antonio. Arce is his last name. I apologize if you're listening. I know you are, but he's got some great videos where he's at the airport here in San Antonio, and they've arrested the guy. And so all of this is, these folks are showing us what the NGOs are doing. They are facilitating this. And so you have a bill here. Let me put this up one more time. You have a bill here right there smack in the middle that would kill the money funding to the NGOs, you see? But there's one guy, his name is Tony Gonzalez on Congressional District 23, who literally is against it. Still is. But he's trying to get reelected. So he's hanging out with, guess who? Marjorie Taylor Greene, about how he's going to impeach Mayorkas. Well, he liked Mayorkas to begin with, but the reason was, and I'm tying this back to the earlier conversation, is because Brandon Judd advocated for Mayorkas. And why? Because Mayorkas, Brandon Judd, all these people are pro-amnesty. So all this is tied together, folks. All of it. And till I heard Ken Paxton talking to Tucker Carlson, I never really would tell folks, look, I would say, look, we lost in the middle of the night our campaign by 7 votes. 7 votes. Yeah, there you go. 7 votes. And on something we won at 10 o'clock, we clobbered Tony Gonzalez. You see? But those were the days of mail-in ballots and harvesting and all this other good stuff. And so here I am podcasting, telling you what's on the other end and how that guy's going to color code himself red, because he's already trying to do that. But we're going to out him here every day. And if I'm running, we're going to out him out there in public. So there's no reason for you to go vote for Tony Gonzalez. There's a bunch of other wonderful candidates out there. Go do your research. You know who they are. Frank Lopez, who we had here on the Sunday podcast, we were talking about Jesus and God, because that's what we do on Sundays, by the way. If you want to talk the Bible and just hear us just give God praise and glory, join us at 7 o'clock. There's my plug for Sunday's episode. Now, let's talk about the media here for a second here real quick, as we're going to round out about another 15 minutes. I didn't think it was going to go that fast, but I guess this is what happens when you're having fun. Let me see if I've got this one right here. I'm going to leave that one there. That's for later. Okay, this is the big one. Nope, not even that one. My apologies. All right, this is Ken Paxton. I'm going to come back to this, but this is Ken Paxton, our Attorney General, opening an investigation against Media Matters. Don't need to read all that scribbly stuff in there. I'm going to get to it in 2 seconds here, okay? This here is Elon Musk. Watch that circle part, right? The split second. This is Elon Musk, by the way, talking. This is on Twitter a few days ago, saying the split second. This is probably Sunday or Saturday of this past weekend. And he's saying here, the split second the court opens on Monday, X Corporation, because it used to be Twitter, remember, now it's X Corporation, will be filing, and I love the way he says this, a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters and all those who colluded in this fraudulent attack on our company. Now, I'm going to tell you what that is in a minute here. Just hang in there for a second, okay? So guess who does it too? The Trump Media Technology Group is just filed a historic and massive defamation lawsuit against 20 media companies, and they all spurn off this Media Matters portion here. So let me tie it all together here. Let me show you this. Ken Paxton is suing Media Matters. This is Elon Musk suing Media Matters. And here's Trump suing all these other companies. Okay. Why? So Elon Musk, in the last 7 or 8 months, and listen, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk on a lot of different things, but because we don't agree on certain ideologies, but he has been absolutely terrific about freedom of speech on social media. And if you were to listen to Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan show, and they talk for 3 hours, by the way, one of the things he says, he could see that Facebook, and I'm about to get canceled from Facebook just by saying that right now, but Facebook, YouTube, and a lot of these other big media mogul companies, and you know this because they did it to us in COVID, right? Oh, you got to stay 6 feet apart. COVID's so bad. COVID's so bad. COVID's so bad. Part of those things you saw there is I wanted to talk about COVID, but we're going to run out of time. But I do want to talk about the Media Matters piece, because Media Matters wants Elon Musk gone. This company was formed back in 2006 or 7 or 4, somewhere in there. I'll put the research in the comment section because we want to get it right. But they were funded by George Soros for one reason, and that is to tackle anything media on the right. So they would go after Fox News. When Fox News still had Bill O'Reilly and all other stuff, guess what? Guess who were the ones who went after those folks? Media Matters. They're the ones who literally would go after anything and anybody for anything. But they met their match, because here's what they did. So Media Matters creates these profiles. And what they do, these different profiles, and all they are is like as if your Facebook account, your name or Toys R Us or whatever. They created these accounts, these social media accounts, and then they would visit anti-Semitic leaders, podcasts, PACs, groups, speeches, and they just consistently visited these places. And then what they do is they go up to Twitter, and what happens is the algorithm is set up that you're going to get advertisement from, like, so if you're a Walmart and an Amazon, have you ever gone to Amazon? You're shopping like crazy, and then all of a sudden you're on your Hotmail, and over to the right you'll see something that you were very close to, like, if you're buying a lawnmower, all of a sudden there's 1,000 lawnmowers that you can shop for, and you're like, how the heck do they know? Well, it's all an algorithm. And so Media Matters create all these profiles. They go over to these very racist, anti-Semitic groups, followers, whatever, and then they go over to Twitter, and it generates these pictures that pop up as an advertisement on their computers, and they snap the picture of it. They snapped a picture of it, and of course, Twitter. You've got large groups like, just Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all these big group, Cisco. All these companies advertise on Twitter. Well, Media Matters throws it all out there and says, "Oh, look, Twitter, Elon Musk is pushing anti-Semitic information. Therefore, they're anti-Semitic. So guess what? 30, 40 companies overnight dropped Twitter and no longer advertise. Well, it hit Elon Musk's wallet. But 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 what Media Matters did, and I'm going to draw a parallel here. It's as if you turn around and you go and convince a couple of, you know, swastika waving idiots, and you go over to Walmart and you snap pictures, and then you tell everybody Walmart is racist. That's exactly what they did, but they did it via the technology. So if you're ever out shopping and all of a sudden you're on your Yahoo account or whatever, you always get this Amazon, or you'll get the last thing that was on there, and 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 it's showing you things that you were shopping for before, or you were just researching. Well, that's what they did, except they went to Twitter. It popped up all this anti-Semitic stuff. They snapped pictures and they threw it out for everybody to just, as an attack on Elon Musk and Twitter. Well, he lost a lot of revenue. And guess what? He says, I mean, you gotta love this. Let me see if this is the right one. Um, yeah, the split second the court opens on Monday, X Corporation will be filing a thermonuclear lawsuit. I mean, that's phenomenal. And so he's going to win, because Media Matters has been around for a long time, literally destroying anything on the right as far as uh, social media, uh, podcasts, anything. And in fact, you remember Bill O'Reilly went down hard because of some things he had. All these folks are on the background doing that. This is why a lot of commentators, guys like me, uh, just talking conservative Christian values, the Media Matters of these worlds are out to attack us. And that's why I'm telling you, you got to share this stuff. You got to share this information. So now they've sort of hit a brick wall with Elon Musk, because he's suing the pants right off of them. And I think he's going to win, because he's only a technology mogul. He's going to be able to easily prove that what they said is defamation. Now, here's what social Media Matters is going to do. Hey, we've got a First Amendment right to do this. The answer is going to be wrong, because they're not a journalistic news organization. They're advocates, they're activists, always pushing against the right. So I think he's going to be really successful. I hope he does. But here's the point. If Media Matters goes down before the March 2024 primaries, and it's a possibility, this is a big win for conservatives, because guess what? They're not going to be able to attack Donald Trump. They're not going to be able to attack a lot of the conservative candidates that are out there. Uh, Companies that are actually like Home Depot, I think I remember at one time was a very Christian based organization. They'll be able to profess and say and do whatever they want according to their values, which they don't do very well, or don't do enough, because guess what? They're always afraid of someone like Media Matters. So again, I wanted to present that. Now let me bring it down to down here, and I don't have pictures for this, but let me see if I got one here. So why do I apply Media Matters? They went after Trump, and now they've gone after Elon Musk. It looks like they're going to get their heinies spanked pretty good. But would it surprise you that in CD23 down here in these lower counties that go all the way to El Paso, we have the same problem? We have the same situation. You see, because here's what's happening. Nobody's paying attention right now, but you're going to pay attention in January when all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, you get a bunch of folks that are going to attack your candidate. You see, now I'm going to show you this because this is kind of nostalgic. My wife's going to go, "Oh my Lord, why did you show that?" And it's not even a good picture, my Lord. But when I was running for Congress, now this isn't about me. What I'm trying to point out to all of you that are listening, Media Matters spent millions of dollars from George Soros to take out a guy like Trump, Ted Cruz, okay, all these great candidates, all these wonderful conservative politicians, and they're part of the reason a lot of good, even good politicians slash leaders don't open their mouths some more because Media Matters goes after them. They went after Elon Musk. That's what I just showed you here, and he's going to go out and just he's going to sue the living daylights out of them. Now let's take it down to local level. Okay, we got our own little Media Matters here. Okay, and I'm going to show them to you. This Yahoo outfit. Let me see if I can share this. And if Frank Lopez is watching, he's just falling out of his chair. But this is me right here, back in what's the date? 2020, July 2020. I want you to read that. News documents reveal possible illegal acts, fraud by Raul Reyes. By the way, this is in Eagle Pass, Texas. That's where this sham outfit. This is the Media Matters of South Texas right here. Because let me tell you who pays them money, who pays this organization money, okay, and advertises through this. Your very own Tony Gonzalez. Now, I'll provide those pictures later, but I'm showing you a picture of me in 2020. I mean, they could at least close my mouth for heaven's sakes here. And it got worse than this because then they put up a picture where I had like a scar. I mean, it was just terrible. And I had these wicked looking eyes. But this is false. And I'll tell you some things. These people right here are going to get sued again by somebody if they do this again. You see? And so what I'm going to say to you is Media Matters at the national level, okay, at the world level, literally ruin careers of conservatives. And guess what? It's funded by George Soros. And what do? They don't want conservatives. They don't want Christian values in the government. So if you're seeing the places a little jacked up, now you kind of understand. But what I'm saying to you, down here in South Texas, where everybody claims we're a bunch of liberal Democrats, we're not. On the night of March, actually it was July the 14th, because we had a runoff and they pushed it all the way back to July because of COVID. This guy right here spanked the living daylights out of Tony Gonzalez, and we clobbered him by 10 o'clock. But because they were running these kinds of articles, you see, these kinds of doomsday, this guy's a fraud, you see. This picture you're seeing right here is retired Lieutenant Colonel Raul Reyes from Del Rio, Texas, who had his own business by the time he was 16 years old out at Amistad Lake, where I had a successful lawn mowing business. I worked at Wendy's, and on the weekends, I mowed more yards than most people can count. Put himself through college, got a commission, retired as a lieutenant colonel, built his own home building business, only to be called by a fraud by the Eagle Pass Leader News. You see? Now, why am I showing you this? And you all need to show this to all the candidates that are running in Congressional District 23, because Tony Gonzalez's playbook is to do like Media Matters. He's going to go back to the Eagle Pass Leader News. By the way, Victor Wheeler is the editor-in-chief. And if you didn't know it, this is his wife right here. Boom. The NGO director, that blonde lady there, is Victor Wheeler, the editor-in-chief of this idiot ragtag outfit that puts stuff like this up. I better turn this one off here, like this, about your candidates. Now, I'm not in this race. What I'm saying to you is I'm going to wake you up between now and January when you actually snap out of it and you realize, okay, that they're going to have to go hard against Julie Clark. They're going to have to go hard against Victor Avila. They're going to have to go hard against Brandon Herrera, who is your candidate, and Frank Lopez, and potentially Raul Reyes, because they've done it before. The only way Tony Gonzalez wins this election is if he steals it, but he can't, because he can't do it anymore. The only other way is to go complete negative against guys like me who serve their country. By the way, all the other candidates have done wonderful things for their country. So be on the lookout for this idiot ragtag Media Matters of South Texas. They are the Eagle Pass Leader News. By the way, when the Del Rio Herald News went out of business about 3 years ago, they then incorporated Del Rio and Eagle Pass Leader News. I don't think they're associated with the Uvalde Leader News. I hope not, because I actually like Uvalde, that outfit out there. But if they're associated with this, shame on them. Other than that, just be on the lookout for this. This is sort of how I want to wrap up the night here. Recap. Whew. How long? Oh, I'm like 3 minutes over. Trump, Abbott, good thing, feeding DPS down at the border, excellent. But all the bootstrappers are trying to get in close, like a Brandon Judd, who's pro-amnesty, who endorsed Mayorkas, a guy that Tony Gonzalez doesn't want to impeach, until a week ago when he realized he pulled a poll and he's in the 30s, maybe even in the 20s, and he's been censured by the Republican Party of Texas. And now he's got at least 4 candidates, potentially a 5th with Raul Reyes. And if you're listening, we may be doing it. So you might want to apologize for a lot of the crap you're doing. All that said, that's what's happening in South Texas. Wonderful things with the President Trump. He's on his way to win the nomination, potentially on his way to win November. And I wanted to show this video. I don't have time, but there was some Democrat morons saying that Donald Trump needs to be eliminated. We need to pray for President Trump and President Biden. The Bible calls for us to pray for all our leaders, doesn't matter who, even our enemies, folks. So I'm not saying anything, but when they threaten to eliminate the president on national TV, the former president, my Lord, we're in a bad spot. So Trump, Abbott, and the border, but all the bootstrappers are starting to come out. They're mostly pro-amnesty. I pray Mr. Trump sees this, okay? And what I will say, if I jump in this race, I hope the president will get it right this time and come our way. And then, of course, we transitioned over to Ukraine. That war is lost. It's lost. We spent millions of dollars. By the way, you know who went to Ukraine? I guess I didn't put this out there, but Tony Gonzalez, responsible for giving $113 billion to Ukraine. Actually, it was more like 200. They voted for it. And with Republicans like that, I mean, Lord, there's no respite right now because we don't have the right Republicans to fight Democrats to counter all this crap. So if you feel disillusioned and in despair, I get it. I get it. But prayer is powerful, and you got to stay on board with God Almighty because He's going to help change things. But you can't quit. You just can't sit back and do anything, which is why we're having this crazy little podcast here, hoping you'll share the crap out of it. Did I just say it that way? Share it and let people know what's happening out there. Then we went and talked about Media Matters, who has literally ruined a lot of lives, to include President Trump and everything around that. But now they've tapped up on Elon Musk, and a thermonuclear lawsuit is going their way. I drew a parallel. I said, hey, down here, this Yahoo outfit, okay? And I try to call these folks and say, you know, the least you could have done was at least ask me if any of this was true. You see? But that's not what they do. And you know what Media Matters does? Media Matters sets it up with these little nuggets, and then MSNBC, ABC, and all these other people take it up. And guess what? This is why Donald Trump is going after all of these people, because they grabbed all the Media Matters information and threw it out as true. By the way, these are all the liberal, left-leaning organizations that you could possibly have out there. And so when you look at this moron outfit, Eagle Pass Leader News, and I'm going to give it, that's the last time I'm going to say that, beware and protect your candidates, whoever you're supporting out there. Because they did this to me, they did this to Frank Lopez, and they're going to do that to anybody that gets in the way of Tony Gonzalez. Because Victor Wheeler and his wife, right here, They're in bed with that guy. His name is Tony Gonzalez. Folks, CD23 right now is cursed. Let me just say it that way. It is cursed to have this congressman on here because he has zero integrity. And I would know because I retired and I worked with thousands of airmen, military, army, Marines, and I know what integrity looks like. So it's time to get rid of this clown and protect all your candidates from this Ego Pass Leader News Media Matters outfit because they don't work for Media Matters, but they're just like them. So all that happened, we're going to leave it on a happy note here. We're all going to get nice and healthy and fat. Cranberry my tia Panchi makes the best cranberry sauce. Although I don't think I'm going to get any because we're going to actually celebrate here and she's all the way somewhere else. So whatever your favorite food is, indulge, have a great time. You know, again, we have everything to be thankful for. And the best part about being thankful to God is that he gives us an opportunity every day to wake up and do what I'm doing here and you do there at work and you take care of your kids and that's do the best thing you can do. And more importantly, fight for this country because you see that flag back there like hell. I'm going to let anybody like a Tony Gonzalez or a John Cornyn or anybody else pretend like they're doing something when they're not and the country's going to hell in a handbasket. No mas, not on my watch, not on your watch. That's why you're listening. So get inspired, say a prayer, thank God for everything, enjoy turkey. I think we're doing ham, I'm not sure. Although my mom makes a carne guisada because the kids love carne guisada, not that they don't like turkey. So everybody has a little special niche on things. We'll have tamales and menudo and all that good stuff. There's going to be more food. And the reason I say that is we are blessed by God in this country to have so much. I've been to places, and a lot of you have seen this, where children don't have any food. You see, they don't get to eat, and for them, we'll pray that they get a little meal or something on that day, and that we're all thankful to the Almighty for this great country of ours. And so, with that said, I want to bless all of you in the name of Jesus. That you have a wonderful next 3 or 4 days. We're going to be back on Sunday here at 7 o'clock. I invite Richard Reese and of course, Ed Garza and Frank Lopez and myself. And we've got a couple other pastors that want to come on. We'll try to line them up. And all we talk is God and Jesus because we can talk politics forever. You can get all upset. Do not despair. For all things are good and wonderful with God, and that's who founded this country. And in Jesus' name, we're gonna keep making it better and better for not just ourselves but our children, great grandchildren. So God bless all of you. Have a good night. I'm gonna be quiet now because the wife is screaming at me. I got my text like 3 times now saying, "Ya se acabó, vámonos, it's over." So hasta la bye bye. We will talk later. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful holiday, Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on the other side.